So about 7 years ago, I was in a relationship where I wasn't happy at all. I felt like I was with somebody who had very different value systems to me. We were pulling in very different directions in terms of what we wanted to get out of life. And I could feel myself becoming increasingly unhappy in that relationship. I realized that I needed to end it, basically, as sad as that was. This is, of course, the relationship I had with my ex-wife. And because I am saying ex-wife, that's probably a bit of a spoiler alert that I went through with it. We got divorced, and it was one of the hardest periods of my life. And it was hard not just because of all of the technicalities of what it means to get divorced. That's not much fun at all. And the stress and the sadness and the conversations and all of that. But also, a lot of people found it quite difficult to understand why I was doing this, why I was going through this. And a lot of the time I felt really alone because I didn't feel like anybody was really providing me with much support at all. Everyone, that is, other than this woman that I met called Karolina, she was also going through a divorce as well at the same time. And so I guess you could say we formed a kind of a trauma bonding duo. And it wasn't just that we had an initial kind of connection over. There was actually a lot of things that we felt we really connected on. Our love of travel, coffee, board games, but also in a deeper and more broader sense in terms of how we saw life and what we wanted to get out of it. The place that we saw ourselves in the world, that sort of thing, more of a philosophical kind of connection than a material one. And that was really quite appealing, as you can imagine, going through this deeply difficult period of divorce, whilst also finding somebody that felt more and more like my spiritual partner. That was a period that was very emotionally turbulent, as you can imagine. And so she helped me through those days, she helped me through those times. And here I am again, finding myself in a place where I'm doing something that I need to do, and something that a lot of people don't understand, and actually they don't want me to do. And that's really hard. There's a lot of things that are super difficult about that. And who's there for me once again? Well, Karolina. I can talk about how much I appreciate the help and support that she's given me, because that's the focus of this video today. But I just wanted to kind of point out some of the ways that she's really been there for me. And yeah, that's what I want to talk about today. So let's start from the absolute beginning then. So when it comes to Karolina's support for me as I embark on this transitional journey, how did it begin? Well, I would say Karolina was certainly the first person that I actually came out to as a transgender woman. And I think partly that was because I'd always felt that when I leave my wife, this was something that I was going to do. I was going to, I don't know, in my mind's eye, back in my marriage days, I pictured the end of my marriage as this kind of celebratory releasing of all of these thoughts and desires and this deep-seated need to transition. And I would cast off all of my male stuff. I would burn my clothes and have only my clothes as my permanent wardrobe. And of course it's not as simple as that, it's not as fast as that. I was still going through quite a lot as I was going through that divorce. It was not the best time to be doing both of these things simultaneously. So in any case, I felt that what I needed to do was at least come clean to Karolina, tell her my deepest, most traumatic, my most difficult thoughts, and see what she would do with them. Because if she was truly going to be somebody that I was going to be with for an extended period, then it was really important to me that we start off. I mean, I didn't tell her immediately, but fairly early into the relationship, this is who I am. And to be fair to her, she rolled with that idea quite well. She didn't respond in any other way than supportive and trying to be understanding, because it's not something that, if you're aware of, you would really fully comprehend. So she asked questions, and we took a bit of time to go over what it means for me. It's funny because I try to encourage her to watch these videos, and she often says, well, there's no point because I've heard all of this before, and she has. It's like what I'm telling you here on this channel is almost like a recounting of the conversations that we've had in our history, in our relationship history. She has heard it all before, and now I'm telling you. But yeah, anyway, so I came out to her first, and it was such a relief to know that she was supportive. And at that time, I didn't feel like I needed to transition. And I think she felt initially that was a relief, that I wasn't going to do anything that was going to make her life harder. But also, what that would mean for her, because she's not somebody who's interested in being in a romantic relationship with a woman. And how would that reflect an impact upon her and how she perceives herself and her life? So I think it was initially a bit of a shock, a bit of a worry. And because I try to remain fairly consistent and fairly open and honest as best I can, I think I alleviated a lot of her fears and worries. I think so anyway. And yeah, that's how it was for a few years. I came out to more people, and she was there to support me through that process. And I think she did recognize the conflict within me, that tension between needing to express myself more, needing to be more authentic and more me, and maybe even potentially transitioning and having to lead a life of inauthenticity, having to put on my mask and my costume every day and go out into the world and play the part that's expected of me. And she's had to put up with a lot from me, to be fair. Like, she's had to deal with my ups, my downs, my sadnesses, my misery going clothes shopping, and when I catch a bad reflection of myself in a mirror, she's then had to deal with the bout of depression and dysphoria that triggered. So she's seen how this has adversely affected me, and she's always been there. She's always been supporting of me in that sense. But I was terrified, because for me, if I ever felt like I needed to transition, that could potentially be the end of this relationship, which I felt, and I still feel, is this wonderful source of support that I have. And so time passed, and she eventually, one day she told me that I can get my boobs. She was comfortable with this, which is quite nice. We would often joke about how it would be if I were to go to Thailand and get implants or something like this. And she sort of, I think, came round to this idea. And then pretty much a year ago, almost today, around this kind of time, I can't pinpoint a specific day, but it was around about now that I realized that I need to transition. And I can, and I have to do this. And this is something that it's really important to me. And again, I knew that I couldn't assume that Karolina would just be immediately on board with that. Now, I don't know how much of a surprise it was to her when I told her that this is what I needed to do. Maybe a bit of a surprise, maybe not much of a surprise. But again, she took it in her stride. But I think it really did bring to the surface that concern that she had about what this actually means in terms of our relationship, because I'm going to start presenting more female. I'm going to be permanently changing my body and other parts of myself in order to fulfill this need within me. And I know that that was quite a difficult thing for her to absorb. And I think what helped was that she could see the change that it brought to me, this sense of peace and joy and this increasing feeling of comfort that I have within myself. She's commented about this so many times that she can see how much happier I am and how much more myself I am. And I think if nothing else, at least she can recognize this is how I've always needed to be. And she's really embraced that idea. And I have to say as well, you know, when it comes to all of this, she's always been super on board with things like helping me pick out clothes and other bits of advice. She gives me advice on nail polish and all that sort of thing. And again, I think without her input and without her support, I don't think I'd be as close to psychologically stable as I am these days, because I have this knowledge, this awareness that, okay, I might run into a difficulty. Like on Friday, for example, I learned that I've got to condition my fingernails because they're a bit damaged, and I might need to forego some nail polish for a while. And that was really sad for me, because I love having these colourful nails. It's just a nice thing that I can have. And it's like, no, I don't want to lose that. But she reminded me this wasn't forever. She calmed me down as best she could. And yeah, back to being my usual chipper self, thanks to her. Now, somebody asked me a few weeks ago if I could ever be in a relationship, like a romantic relationship, with another trans woman. And I said yes. I don't see why I couldn't be. It would be interesting because on the one hand, I'd have somebody who would know a lot more instinctively why certain things are important, why certain things are cause for celebration, why certain things are potentially upsetting. And so that might be quite nice, but at the same time it would be quite exposing, because it would almost be like there would be nowhere to hide, because we would know a lot more about what it means to be trans. And sometimes it's nice to be able to put that to the back of my mind a little bit and just appreciate being in a relationship without that at the forefront of our minds, to just be, you know, just to be together. And I mean, it has meant sometimes that I've had to kind of like wonder, you know, am I pushing Karolina too hard? Am I being too honest? Am I being too open? But at the same time, I realized, well, I have to be honest and open. I have to tell her what's on my mind, as difficult as that is, as much as that might be one thing too much, because otherwise it will eat away at me and her. And you know, that's not great. I want this relationship to succeed. I don't see myself being with anybody else, because she's been such a wonderful partner for me, and I just can't imagine ever being in a better relationship, to be honest. It's wonderful, and I know, as I say, how difficult it's been for her, so I hope that she could say the same thing. Yeah, I don't know, I owe a lot to her, I feel, but yeah, I just hope that she understands that. So yeah, I just wanted to make this video today just to kind of publicly declare this. I've talked about Karolina a bit in my videos, but I thought maybe it would be nice to just kind of expand on what this relationship means to me a little bit, the support that it's provided. Maybe if you're a partner of a trans person yourself, if you're going through the same things that Karolina's going through, maybe you can reach out, maybe this will help, I don't know. But we understand, I think trans people do understand the conflict that it creates for cis partners and family members as well, I suppose. The kind of philosophical questions it raises in terms of what it means for you, for your identity, for your sense of self. it cuts deep, you know, because she never expected to be in a relationship with a woman, let alone a trans woman. And yeah, it's been a journey for her as much as it's been for me. And I feel kind of, I don't know, like this isn't my story to tell. So before I release this, I am going to kind of run this by her to see if there's anything that she wants to add or interject about, so that I've got her written permission to write this. But yeah, I really do appreciate everything that she's given me. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. I hope that you appreciated this. All the best. Take care. Bye.